Today, we're talking about projectors and the top three myths that I've seen all over polluting social media about projectors. Brayton, can you tell us a little bit about, first of all, are you a projector? And number two, what have you seen about projectors and sort of like the blasphemy about projectors online?
I am a 2-4 emotional projector. I'm a wide split definition with channel of emoting, channel of inspiration, and channel of awakening. A lot of projectors think they have energy. They don't. Projectors think they have energy because they're amplifying and absorbing energy at 200% from the sacral center. I do have emotional energy. I do have adrenalized energy, but that's not renewable like sacral energy is. So even as a quote unquote energy projector, I still don't have energy. I can't just turn on my adrenal system, whenever I want.
Now, there's a whole lot of young people who want to hustle, who want to make that money, who want to grind. And now being told that if they're a projector, they don't have energy, that makes them think, wait, does this mean that I can't be materially successful?
Absolutely not. It's a matter of learning how to manage and utilize energy, because that's what the projector is here to do. The projector is here to manage energy. Now, if you have energy, it's a lot more difficult to know what to do with it. If you don't have energy, then you have to know what to do with it. In our world, energy is money. So, the question is, okay, well, if I don't have energy, how do I get money? Right? A lot of the times that's the question for the projector. How many things can you do in this world that you do not have to expend physical energy and still get income? There's a lot of things that you can do as a projector. Now, even physically, just because you don't have energy doesn't mean that you can't get it as a projector. The moment that you walk into a generator's field, you're amplifying and absorbing their energy at 200%. So then you do have energy, right? But it's a matter of knowing that it's borrowed. So it's not that a projector can't hustle. It's not that a projector can't sell. It's not that a projector can't work. It's a matter of that projector discerning what's sustainable and what's not sustainable. I've worked in an office before. I've done consulting, I've done sales, and been surrounded by aura, right? Wasn't necessarily unhealthy for me, but I had to manage my energy in a very different way. I had to take a lot of breaks. I had to get out of aura, and I was materially successful then, materially successful now, and I'm out of aura almost all of the time. And so it's a matter of being what you are instead of trying to be what you're not. And that's where a lot of projectors get tripped up, is because they look out in the world and they're like, oh, well, there's this person that does this and this person that does this. Or are they a projector? No. Of course they do that. You know, it's, I mean, and even then, are they not self, or are they living, life as a projector through strategy and authority? Like I said, I could work in the same place that a generator works and be materially successful, but the way that I take on the workload, the way that I manage it is going to be very different than my
Work
generator.
smarter, not harder.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I would work, my actual amount of work that I would do was about 5 hours. I'd be at the office for 10, but I would work 5 hours. I make it look like 10, but it was actually five, right? So that's, it doesn't, just because we don't have energy doesn't mean that we can't be materially successful. We're here to be materially successful. We have to do it in the way that's correct for us, not the way that it is for the next person.
I think this is where a lot of young projectors get super confused because when they hear that they're not here to work, projectors are not here to work, they
Mhm.
think, oh, this means that I just play video games, I lay in bed, and just naturally laying in bed playing video games, somebody's going to recognize me, and that's how I'm going to be successful. Then they get really surprised that years go by, they don't get recognition, they don't
Mhm.
get the invites that they want, and they wonder, why not? What happened?
Well, there's the system mastery that comes in. Just because we're not here to work doesn't mean that we're here to not do anything. Not being here to work means that we don't have sacral energy to expend every day and then be satisfied at the end of the day. Somebody who's sacral, it's healthy for them to be completely expended and fall asleep. You're a projector. It's dangerous to be exhausted and go to sleep. If you're a projector, you can't get recognized for hard work. You're never going to be able to outwork a generator. A generator is always going to be able to, I mean, nobody can compete with generators. Energy wise, nobody can compete with generators. That's the way that it is. They're energy types. So if you want to get recognized, you're going to have to do something else. You're going to have to master something. You're going to have to really hone yourself in on a skill that's intellectual, because it can't be physical. I mean, it could be. There are projectors that do physical things. I did, right? I was a combat operator. Was it tiring? Absolutely. Is it sustainable for my whole life? Absolutely not. It's a matter of knowing that you have to master something that is not going to physically expend all of your energy. And if you don't master something, then you're not going to really get recognized. I mean, you've got an aura that's gonna get you recognition, but it's about the energy that's underneath. The projector that's mastered something walks entirely different from the projector that hasn't. The projector that mastered something has an entirely different level of confidence. Their aura speaks entirely different. You put two projectors next to each other, and one puts their time and their effort into studying and mastering and learning consistently, and the other doesn't. There's a difference in the quality of the aura, and that's not even something that people think of or intellectualize. It's just energy they pick up. And so if you want a strong aura as a projector, you're going to have to study. You're going to have to learn. Yeah, sure, not here to work, but you're going to have to study. You're going to have to learn. If you don't study and you don't learn, you're not going to go anywhere.
Well, this might be a surprise to a lot of projectors then, because when they hear that projectors are not here to work, that also to them means that they're not here to study. But it sounds as though there's a difference between working and then studying and mastering something.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the projector is not necessarily here for physical labor. It's not necessarily what we're here for. That
When you say
doesn't mean.
physical labor, like what could that mean? If you're an office worker, you're not doing physical labor
Mhm.
per se, but would that still be considered physical labor?
I mean, it's not physical labor, and at the same time, there can be restrictions on the amount of energy that's expended. If a projector is sitting in a sacral field for 10 hours a day, that's actually taking a toll on their body, because they're amplifying and absorbing that energy at 200%, and their body doesn't create it. So a projector will get exhausted from being in that field for that long. It's a matter of managing that energy. So it's like if you're a good projector and you're in that type of environment, you figure out a way to take more breaks than everybody. I mean, we need sacral energy. We're, the joke is that we're vampires. But we're symbiotic with the generator. And we need the sacral energy, but it's not something that we're supposed to be around all the time, because it does, it's like overcharging a battery. So if the old batteries, they could get overcharged. That's essentially what happens if you're in the sacral field for too long. If you're a projector, you have to think you have to master something. Not everybody has to master something. A projector does. Yeah, you have to
No
master.
exceptions.
Yeah, I mean, you have to if you really want the success. If you and now success is not this isn't how much money you have. This isn't how much fame you have, or anything like that. Success is a feeling that projectors get. It's our signature. And if you want to get that, then you're going to have to master something. Are you going to get recognized if you don't master something? Yeah, you're a projector. You're going to get recognized for this and for that. But if you want to experience what it is to be recognized for your abilities, you're going to have to master something. I started my career early, and I got recognized much earlier than my peers, years and years earlier than my peers. Uh, there at the same time, how many hours did I put in? I put in thousands of hours of studying, hundreds of hours of professional school. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It wasn't something that happened just because I have gifts. It wasn't something that happened just because I'm gifted at human design. No, I put in thousands of hours of study. I still do. I still put in study. I still put in learning. It's not something that is a process that ends. In fact, a projector is a forever student. Projector is always a student. Projector never is not a student, and a projector is never not guiding. I mean, frankly, we don't even really retire because we have to guide. It's a part of our life. So you're always going to have to be doing something. That doesn't mean that you can't play video games and lay down. I mean, because you can, but if you're going weeks without studying, without learning anything, I mean, as a projector, you need to learn something every other day. You need to study every other day, something. Here's the other thing that's really important is it can't be something that somebody told you is going to be good for you, because that's not coming out of your authority. It can't be something that looks like it's good because that's what everybody else does. It's not coming out of your authority. It has to be whatever is rooted in your authority. Then it's going to work. Then it's going to work. Yeah, if I would have told, when I first started studying human design, it was for myself, for my own benefit. It wasn't because I was going to work in it. And then when I decided that I wanted to work in it, people thought I was crazy because they didn't know what human design was. They thought I was crazy. Like, how is he going to do what, how is he going to, switch careers, in my 30s, switch careers in my 30s. And yeah, it did sound crazy. Even to me, it was crazy. I was like, how is this going to work? Well, I put in the time, I put in the effort, I put in the learning and the integration, and then I got recognized. It happened, but it didn't happen until I had studied for thousands of hours and I went to formal school. And it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody has to do those same steps. The It's going to take time, and it's going to take effort, and it's going to take learning in order to get somewhere as a projector, to get to a place where you're getting the recognition and you're feeling the success, and you're getting the respect that you've earned.
Let me clarify this distinction and let me see if I'm hearing you right. So, when it comes to like purely physical jobs, working construction, that is something that projectors need to be very careful about. If it comes to office jobs, maybe it's not as physically strenuous, but you're around a team of other generator types.
Yeah.
That is also a type of exertion, but it's not like construction. So you can maybe do more hours, you just need to take a lot of breaks. But when it comes to studying something that comes from your authority, you can put in the hours, you can put in the effort, you can put in that exertion because studying is exertion.
Mhm.
And that's not the same as working in an office around all these other generators. It's not the same as working construction.
Right.
So, me as a generator type and you as a projector, you could possibly study more. So, technically, you can work more than me in
Mhm.
studying and mastering a system. And that's not the same. That's not the same work as it would be working in an office, working as a CPA,
Right.
working in the military, things like that.
Right. Yeah. So it's the intellectual capacity that a projector is here to be
Is it
recognized.
all it sounds almost then that the projector, if they're following their authority, the intellectual capacity and the time and effort, and therefore, I guess we can call it work that the projector has for intellectual stuff seems almost endless, almost like what we see as a generator doing then. Like generators are known for like you can just go on and on and on. And it seems like projectors can do that, but when it comes to
Yeah.
learning things.
Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly. Mhm.
That is something that most projectors, I think, have not heard of. They just hear you're not supposed to work. Oh, if I'm not supposed to work, I'm just supposed to sit on my ass all day and
Yeah.
twiddle my thumbs?
No. No, that's not the case. No, it's you have to. You have to. And I see it with, it's interesting because I see it with projector clients where they'll start studying more and all of a sudden they'll start getting more business or it gets stronger. You're living your type. You have to. I've watched it with myself. I've watched it with myself. And it's about having the intellectual capacity and the knowledge of something, but it's not just about the intellectual capacity because you're going to have to practically apply it to somebody else. If you're a projector, then you're here to guide. So there has to be actual practical application that's going to happen. I see it with projectors. They'll learn something, they'll study something, they'll read, they'll be listening to audios, but then when it comes time to sit down in front of somebody, it's not there because everything is just intellectual. All they've done is intellectualize it. So it is that the role is a role that is it's not just about knowing something, it's about knowing how to implement it, it's about knowing how to guide, which is why you have to master it so that you can use it, so that when you do sit down, it's just there. And then you can rely on your design to deliver. That's the whole thing about being a projector. You get recognized and invited, and then your design is what delivers. It's your design that delivers. It's already set up. It's already set up for you. But in order for that to happen, you have to study, you have to learn, you have to master a system or systems. Many projectors that I know that are older have mastered multiple systems. I had mastered 3 systems by the time I found design. By the time I was 30, so you can have mastered multiple systems at a young age. And so that's the other thing, is that a projector is going to master more than one system. It's not about finding the system. It's not about finding one. It's you master whatever is correct for you, and then you're gonna find out through your authority how that's going to be implemented and where it's going to be implemented.
So
It's
it's not like a person needs to formally tell you, hey, I think you should do human design. Hey, I think you should go into learning about stocks. You can just decide, I just feel like it. I just want to do it
yeah,
and learn about
yeah.
it.
It's all about your authority. I mean, everything about human design is being your own authority and not being anybody. Nobody else being your authority. Everything about human design is about individual rights and self-sovereignty. So it's not about what somebody else says. It's about what's right for you. You don't need an invitation to live your life. You need an invitation to engage with somebody else. You need an invitation.
Why do you need invitation if you're a projector to engage?
Well, because you have a focused, penetrating aura, and you can't just put that into people.
A little creepy. I've had projectors without consent put
Yeah,
their aura on me and it felt very invasive. Just putting
it
it
is
out there.
invasive. I mean, it is invasive. I mean, it's electromagnetic energy that's getting put into somebody else. So you have to get invited. You have to get recognized and invited, and then it's not abrasive. Then it feels good to the other person, because it's recognized and invited. So that's a very important piece, and that's how we operate. But we don't, I don't need an invitation to move somewhere. I don't need an invitation to buy a new car. I don't need I don't need an invitation to change my wardrobe or anything like that, right? But I do need an invitation and recognition if I'm going to enter into a relationship, or if I'm going to enter into a business partnership, or if I'm, I need recognition, invitation if somebody's going to give me a key to their house. There's things that you need a recognition and invitation for, because it has to do with another person. Recognition is a good signpost. It can help. The recognition can help. I'll change what I do in my business based off how I'm recognized. Like, oh, I've gotten a lot of recognition for this, and then I'll use my authority and I'll shift something in my business. But I don't keep things the way that they are until somebody tells me something. No, I'll also have something come through my authority, and I'll make a shift. Your life is not ruled by recognition and invitation. Recognition and invitation is how you get opportunities. That's how we thrive, is through recognition and invitation. But that doesn't rule our decision making process. Our authority rules our decision making process.
Can
No.
I tell you, like, when it comes to recognition and invitation, the way that I envision this is that if projectors are not supposed to do a lot of work, right? And they need to do, even when it comes to corporate work, they need to take a lot of breaks. That recognition and invitation is actually a way for generator types like me to basically be like, we're the ones who are hustling and getting paid money for our labor, and it's an exchange. So if you don't need that monetary exchange, then I mean, you don't need monetary exchange to read a book. You don't need monetary exchange, like you said, to buy a car. Like, well, you do, but you don't have to do it to go to a car dealership.
Mhm.
So those things that you don't necessarily need that sort of exchange from, would you say that it's correct to say, yeah, just do what you want? But if there has to be some sort of recognition, like you want that person to be like, I see you, I like you, let's work together, let's date, let's do whatever, that's when you need the recognition and invitation.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really important piece of the invitation. Is technically the invitation always has to come with something. Always has to come with something. So, you know, somebody invites you. An invitation is going to be. If somebody invites me to do something, They're either, it's either going to provide me with something business wise, exposure, marketing, or energy and resources, but there always has to be something with an invitation. There always has to be something in it. And so it's a quid pro quo for the projector. Everything about being a projector is really quid pro quo. You're as a projector, you're a symbiotic being. We rely on the generators for energy, for life force. So there's a symbiosis that has to happen, and a correct invitation is going to be an invitation where something is given to you, because if something's not given to you, then there's not actually recognition. There's not actually recognition. And a lot of, this is a lot of projectors are, they'll essentially settle for servitude for what they think is recognition. It's actually just a compliment. It's not actually recognition. So you have to be receiving something, getting something from somebody in order for it to actually be an invitation. And when you actually are recognized and invited, people are happy to give that to you. They're happy to give you whatever, whether it's financial capital, social capital, marketing, exposure. People are happy to give that to you when they recognize you and invite you. It's not something that they're stingy on. They're happy to when you're actually recognized and invited.
No, that is such a good point. This point about what recognition actually is. Recognition isn't me going to a projector and being like, "Hi." Yeah, I've said hi, but I'm not recognizing you, right? Recognizing you would be me coming up and saying, "I saw this post that you put up on Instagram the other day, and it really spoke to me because of A, B, C, and D. And then I saw your Instagram live, and you were talking about this, and it really spoke to me. And because of that, I feel as though you are this unique person. You have a unique perspective I can't get from any other person else. Therefore, I am willing to pay you X amount of dollars, give you X amount of time, whatever it is, so that I now am going to formally invite you by giving you the dollar bills, the time, the clout, whatever it is."
Right.
That's a healthy, successful exchange.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Because the projector has to have projected channels, the design has to get recognition and invitation to have a full expression, for it to fully express itself. And so that's a fundamental piece of it. This is why, as a projector, some invitations are better than others, and some invitations, even if they're okay, they get declined because it's not as good as others. There's not as much that's there. The easiest way for any projector to know if they're actually recognized is if they look at their design and they see what their definition is, so they see what their channel is. And if the recognition has to do with that channel or that definition, then they know, okay, well, I'm actually recognized. Me, I have a very powerful throat center. I have 2 self-projected channels. I'll get compliments on my voice. I'll get compliments on the way that I talk. I'll get compliments on the way that I sound. And then I know, okay, I'm being recognized for my definition. Whereas if somebody's got an undefined throat, a projector with an undefined throat, well, where's the, you know what I mean? They don't have that definition, so they're not actually getting recognized. So you can find it in your own design in whatever you have defined. Like, let's say that somebody has a defined spleen. A lot of the times people that have defined spleens, because the spleen is about health, their energy is going to give off health. It's going to give off a feel good feeling. If you're around, that's what's going to come through. That's the quality of the energy that's going to come through. If somebody's emotional, there's going to be emotion that's going to come through. I'll get complimented for, people recognize me for my passion. It's a matter of something that is not just a compliment. It's somebody recognizing what your design is, and that comes down to discernment. And it gets easier over time because you know that, oh yeah, that's not actually recognition, and you feel it in your body. And that's the big thing about recognition, is to not intellectualize it, but to feel it in your body. Yeah, we still use our mind because that's a very simple way to measure. I'm not going to get recognized for my willpower. I don't have a defined ego. It's so that's an easy way to measure, but it's a feeling in the body, because you can get recognition as a projector and it's so deep that you just don't even know what to say, and you're just like, you kind of just sit there and you're like, oh, thank you. You don't really know what to say, because sometimes recognition hits really deep. It's That's how you know the difference. It's not as simple. you're going to get recognition. And you're like, oh, thank you. No, that's you're going to know because you're not. It's going to feel different. It's going to feel very different. It's different energy.
You're gonna feel seen, like, for who you really are.
Yeah, and you be seen for what's inside you. You know, you're being recognized for your energy, being recognized for something that can't be seen, that's not atomic. So you're being recognized literally for your energy.
So it's in, I think, every projector's best interest to sort of let their freak flag fly, right? Because
Yeah,
you have to be you, or else you're not going to get recognized correctly. And then you're just going to feel bitter and not successful because you'll be like, nobody sees me, nobody gets me, nobody sees how special I am. But it's kind of
right.
your own fault if they don't recognize you for who you
Hmm.
really are.
Yeah, exactly. It's if you're not yourself, how are you going to be recognized for being yourself? If you're not being yourself,
And if you're not a master at something, then why would a generator type like me, who's busy working and busy hustling, like, why would I then spend my time and energy recognizing out of the millions of people in the world, why would I recognize somebody who's not a master? Right? But to me, that
exactly.
makes pure logical sense.
Yeah,
I'm also getting something out of it too, right? I'm not just recognizing projectors out of the kindness of my own heart. I'm
right.
recognizing them and I'm willingly giving them an invite, a formal invite of an exchange of cash money or whatever it is, because
Hmm.
they are valuable, because they are masters. They
Right.
can help guide and facilitate me in ways that I don't think that other people can. So
Exactly.
this is a very fair and equitable exchange.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the way that that's the way that it works. It's a symbiotic relationship between the projector and the generator. I mean, just overall, you know, that's something that I always, in working with projectors, I work with a lot of projectors, and you know, that's something that I always teach them is where's the quid pro quo, right? Where's the quid pro quo in whatever it is that's in their life, and you know, it goes both ways. What are you giving? What are you getting? You know, a projector can't be so entitled, you know, to something without giving something. You know, they can't be entitled because they have to be able to give something. Whether it's they have to be able to give their mastery, their guidance, their insight, their seeing. They have to be able to give something to the other person. And if they can't give that to the other person, then how can they expect anything? They can't expect anything, right?
My God, can we talk about this entitlement, which I believe is at the root of a lot of young projectors' bitterness? They haven't
Yeah.
mastered anything.
Hmm.
And yet they feel and they are special deep down. They have the potential to be great facilitators and guides, but they haven't bothered to master anything because they've heard somewhere on Instagram that, oh, as a projector, you're not supposed to work. So they're like, oh, okay. So I'm not going to study anything because that's work, even though it's technically not for a projector. I'm not going to
Right.
study anything. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to walk around without absolutely any sort of mastery. And somehow people are going to see me and see how special I am, but then it doesn't happen. Then they become bitter. Then they
Hmm.
complain online. And when I'm in the presence of a bitter projector, it
It's
literally hurts. It
it's
hurts me.
terrible. It's terrible. Yeah, it's terrible. It's one of the most dangerous things for a projector is crabs in a bucket. If you're a projector and you're bitter, you don't spread that around. There's nothing. You get two projectors and they're bitter and they're sitting there talking about their bitterness. It's like it's a disease. So
Mhm.
I'm very much against projector groups because
Really?
projectors aren't. Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to learn what we learn and then go guide generators. I mean, I'm very much against projector groups. I've been asked why I don't create an online community for projectors because I've trained and educated hundreds of projectors, more than anybody that I know of, more than anybody that I know of that's alive. And it's because I'd be setting them up to fail. If I was
Wow.
setting them up to only interact with each other, I would be setting them up to fail because that's not the point. The point is you learn and you master what you need to learn and master, and then that's something that you provide. The projector is here to be of service. So that's the thing that a projector needs to understand. Not be of service for free, but still to be here of service. As a projector, you're still here to be of service, and you're going to have to learn in order to be able to do that. Is you've got two projectors, and of course we're all infinitely different, but you've got one that studies for 3 hours every day or reads for 3 hours every day, and you've got one that reads for 3 hours every week. Which one do you think is going to get recognized? Who's going to have the knowledge? Who's going to have the intelligence? Who's going to, who has been using their mind enough to have the plasticity that's necessary to go out into the world and be trusted as somebody that can facilitate and can guide? It's going to be the person that puts in the learning. I mean, people are repelled by bitter projectors. A generator does not want to be around a bitter projector at all. I mean, nobody really wants to be around a bitter projector. I don't want to be around a bitter projector. But the bitterness, I mean, it's going to be there until you do something about it. And yet, in order to do something about it is to learn, so that you can obtain the success. Because there's two sides of the coin. You've got bitterness and you've got success. You can have one or the other. And you want the success, and you can only get the success by doing something. You can only get the success by learning, by mastering, by putting in the effort.
This is such a paradigm shift, I think, for so many projectors. This myth of doing mental work, like learning stuff is also considered work and therefore you shouldn't do it. That's been really holding back a lot of young projectors. The
No.
comment section of my TikToks are filled with people saying, I'm so depressed because I've been told that I'm not supposed to work and I'm just supposed to wait and wait and wait. And I'm like, wait, you're supposed to be busy as fuck learning and mastering something right now. And in some ways, you should be busier than me, like learning and getting so good at
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, it's an active, waiting for the invitation is an active process. It's not a passive process. It is an active process. So whatever, I'm always waiting for invitations in the sense that I'm a projector, and I don't, I have my own business. It's small in the sense of I have one employee, so to speak. I have an assistant, right? But I don't go out and advertise. I'm not a generator. I'm not a manifestor. I'm not an energy type, right? So, in my time in between teaching, my time in between taking on new clients as I phase other mentoring clients out, I'm not just doing nothing. It's still an active process for me. It's still learning. Even though I can get invited to go speak at an event where I'm speaking next to one of my predecessors that's twice my age, right, on a similar topic, a similar discipline in human design, right? That says something about my level of mastery in the system. And I still study and I still learn, and it's still an active process. And my predecessors, they're still students. I'm still a student. It's not something that ends as a projector. You don't end the student process. You're a forever student, because that's where you're going to get recognized, is for your intellect, for your capacity to communicate, your capacity to guide, and that has to do with the studying. That also has to do with the application. If you're a projector and you don't talk to people, I'm not saying to be social, because not every projector is designed to be inherently social. I'm not inherently social. But without engaging with people, if it's only intellectual, then you're going to really be in trouble. At the same time, I can't only rely on my natural gifts, even though that's what I do. I rely on my natural gifts, but that doesn't mean I don't have to study. Just because I'm a gifted speaker, just because I'm a gifted communicator and gifted at guiding, it doesn't mean that I don't have to study, that I don't have to have the intellectual capacity, because I do. In my level of work, I can't get asked a question and be like, let me pull up a book and look into that. I can't do that. It has to be there. And the only way that it can be there is through consistent study,
Right.
consistent learning. And that doesn't need to be something that, I'm not saying have your books at your desk and go and sit down and drill yourself for an hour. But I am saying, when something comes up, and I do this till this day, something will come up and I'm like, I wonder if that correlates, and I'll pick up a manual. I'll pick up a piece of text and I'll look at something, and maybe I've already looked at it before, maybe I've already read it before, but I'm piecing something else together. Systems are systems. Systems are complex. Systems aren't easy. So because systems are complex and they're not easy, they take a lot of time to master. And you know, as a projector, you do have there is an advantage in that you don't necessarily have to have mastered the system to get recognized for it. Not necessarily. You don't necessarily have to have mastered the system, but you have to put in that effort to master the system. The energy has to be there. It's just like anything else. If you're never going to get away, you're never going to get away from whatever energy you put out there, right? Whatever energy you put out there, that's what's going to come right back around. If you put out the energy that you want to learn and that you want to guide and you want to put in the effort, that's going to translate in your energy. That's going to translate to people that are around you. It's not something that is just going to go unseen. It might go unseen for a while. That's true. It might be a year, it might be 2 years, it might be 7 years. Shit, that's what I tell projectors. Could be 7 years because it could take 7 years to master a system, right? Yeah, a projector needs to understand that you could be a projector and you can work 20 hours a week, and you could have a very, very good income and not need to worry about material resources at all if you master a system.
What I'm hearing, and this will be very exciting to a lot of young projectors, is as you're mastering a system, you're going to naturally feel a sense of success, like, this is what I was meant to do. And it could be anything. You
Mhm.
could be in the military right now and you're mastering the system of the military. And then later on, maybe you could be somebody who guides other people, because it sounds as though projectors, ultimately, that one-on-one guidance of a generator is going to be so fucking fulfilling. So that's what you're
Yeah.
trying to do. You're trying to be the guy, the girl, the person that people
Mhm.
turn to and say, that's the person that I want to be put
Yeah.
under as like my mentor or whatever, because they know the ropes.
Right.
They know what they're talking about. But as you're mastering stuff, if you're very authentic about who you are, you're obviously showing, I'm not like everyone else. And
Mhm.
also, you're having a sense of success. So that satisfied vibe is so nice
Mhm.
to be around, right?
Yeah.
And that the successful vibe is so satisfying just for anybody to feel.
Mhm.
So if you're feeling success and you're being yourself and you're on the way to mastery, even if you're
Mhm.
at maybe year 1 or 2, I can tell as a generator, when I look at the social media of somebody who I can tell is
Mhm.
early in their journey, but you can just tell that they've got some good solid ground under them. And
Yeah.
I recognize them. I may not invite them formally right now, but I
Mhm.
recognize them. I follow them. I'm
Right.
interested in their journey. And I'm guessing also by what you're saying that a projector on that journey is going to get recognition easier than, let's say, a generator type who may have to work a little bit harder, even if they have the same level of beginner
Right.
mastery than a projector, because projectors are something about them. They've got that riz, that swagger,
Mhm.
that as long as they have some mastery going on, some effort going on, they will get recognition more easily than the average person.
Yeah, because they're here to be recognized. That's the thing, is that they're here to be recognized, and so it's just that recognition. Everything comes with a price, and the price of being recognized is putting in the effort. It's doing the work, the intellectual work. Projector can get in a lot of trouble if they think they can shortcut things, and that's where they get into a lot of trouble, is because we're very intelligent and we can shortcut certain things and we can find hacks for certain things, but not everything. And human design is something that there is no shortcuts or hacks for. So it's always going to be about authenticity for the projector. The more authentic you are, the better the results are going to be. Period. Authenticity is always going to get you farther than faking it till you make it, or pretending to be something you're not, or performing. I do know projectors that are relatively quote unquote successful, that do a lot of performing, and that they have whatever quote unquote success they have, but it's only from a certain amount of people, because every projector that lives this, that's successful, we can see through the bullshit. I mean, you can't hide anything from a projector. So there are projectors that do perform, that do kind of fake it until they make it. And yeah, that might work on some people, that might get them somewhere, maybe materially, but the overall success as a projector is it's through that recognition, that respect, and being seen. It's not just, it's not only the material piece. The material piece is there, that's very real, but as a projector, you want to be able to walk in any room as yourself, and whatever you're learning, whatever you're mastering, you want to be able to walk in any room as yourself and feel comfortable. Like, I know projectors that would walk into a room with me and some of my colleagues and they wouldn't feel comfortable because we know they perform. you know we know they perform, we know they're not necessarily
They're
themselves.
cosplaying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they're not good at guiding energy, or that they're not good at giving advice. It doesn't mean that they're not good guides or anything like that, but they're still not necessarily themselves.
They
And
could be even more in success if they were themselves.
exactly, they would be more successful.
Let's say that there's a projector right now who is young and they're an artist. And they're like, but I'm drawing stuff. So how am I eventually going to be guiding people? Like, what would you say?
Well, I mean, I know quite a few projectors that are artists, actually. I mean, if you think about let's say a projector gets a commission for something. Well, what are you doing? If you get commissioned for something, you're going to be guiding that client in what do they want? What do they actually want? What do they want you to create? What do they want you to make? Right? And so there's a guidance piece that comes in a lot of respects. There's very successful actors that are projectors. Robert Downey Jr., Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio. There is there is a guidance piece that goes into their role. There's a guidance piece that goes in when they're interacting with the other person, when they're interacting with somebody. The projector is really always guiding. They just don't necessarily realize it. Once they realize it, then that's when the questions come in of, well, shit, I need to be charging for this. So, it doesn't really matter what the projector does so long as there is some guidance capacity that's there. I mean, again, a projector could be guiding somebody on how to pick up trash correctly. I mean, a projector can be guiding somebody on a multitude of things, and it's not always going to look super traditional, in the sense that maybe it's not going to look like it does for me when somebody comes to me to learn, or they come to me for mentorship, or it's not always going to look like that. I have a colleague that is a first generation student, and he told me one of his favorite positions that he ever had. He was a waiter at a restaurant, and that was like one of the favorite things that he's ever done. He's like, I think it's probably my favorite job when I was younger. He was like, I was a waiter. And we talked about how that was guidance. He's recommending, what he's recommending dishes and guiding. So there's guidance comes in a lot of different ways, and the projector is going to know based off how they feel if that feels good. Before I entered into design for my profession, you know, consulting, selling, and technology, it stopped feeling good. So I knew that it was time for me to change careers, because it stopped feeling good. Was I good at it? Yes. Was I successful? Yes. It didn't feel good though. So a lot of it has to come down to what feels good. What somebody says you should do is probably not what you should do. What you should do is whatever feels best for you to do. That's because you're going to have to get good at that. And when you get recognized, then you're gonna feel good. You're gonna feel good, and that's how you're gonna get your success. You're not gonna get success by doing something because logically it sounds like a good thing to do. Because if you don't feel good, where's the success? You're not going to be giving off the energy that's necessary for people to recognize you. So they could be an artist. They could be I know projectors that's what they do. They literally paint for a living. They get paid to paint. They have collectors, they have commissions that happen. I know projectors that do. uh, so it can be very, very diverse in what a projector does.
Then it sounds like as long as a projector finds a system that they can master, whether it's art, whether
Mm.
it's getting good at maybe fixing cars, whatever it is, or just learning lots of different things. It could be, or being a good waiter, which
Yeah.
has a lot to do with psychology and,
Yeah.
just all that stuff. As long as they find something that feels good for them to
Mhm.
master, then they'll be around people who recognize them for being good at it. I'm sure your friend who's a good waiter, he was getting great tips. People enjoyed coming to, being waited by him. Um, and then that also means that they're around people, the people who recognize them also feel good.
Right.
So it really seems like overall, it's important for projectors to just feel really good and authentically successful about what they're doing, what they're learning, the people they're around.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to, that's the thing is, everything about being a projector is about the other person. Oh, it's going to be directly tied to another person. The success has to be directly tied to another person because that's where the recognition, that's where the invitation comes from.
Are there
So,
loner projectors out there?
are there loner projectors out there? I think most projectors are loners. I think
Or
that,
like who are just away from society, like do not interact with people at all?
I mean, I don't really. I mean, I do, but it depends. Projectors are going to have their own profiles. Some people, I'm very self-contained. My profile is very self-contained. I'm not open to people. I'm not open to strangers. It takes a lot to get through to actually access me. There's projectors that are not like that. There's projectors that are transpersonal. They've got a different type of profile, so they're going to be much more outgoing when it comes to meeting people. They're going to be much more open in allowing people to get to know them. And there's some of us that are more closed off, but it's always going to have to do with the other person. I'm pretty closed off, but once you get in, you're in, right? And that's just the way that I function. That's the way that my profile is. Uh, it's always going to have to do with another person in some capacity. Every step of human design is anti-homogenization, which means that every step of human design is against doing what everybody else is doing. I mean, everything about human design is not doing what everybody else does. I mean, you're here to do what you feel is best for you. It's about individual authority. So, it can be it, it can be a lot of different things, but there is going to need to be an interaction, some sort of an interaction with another person. If there's no interaction with another person, then it's going to be very difficult for that projector to actually feel the success. Could they be good at it and be materially, successful? Could they have the material resources? Could they have the money, the energy? Yes. Are they going to feel successful without any sort of guidance capacity? Probably not. Probably not going to feel it. They might feel successful on, in a general sense, but not in the projector sense, because there's a big difference between what society would say success is and projector success. Those are two very different things. And projector success is something that is a signature. It's something that a projector experiences. It's not a destination. It is something that is experienced. And just like bitterness is, it's the other side of the coin. So if you're a projector, you think about the times that you don't feel bitter. Well, that's probably when you're feeling success. The times that you feel good, that's probably when you're feeling success. I can still get bitter and not feel success. Uh, and man, at the same time, I can look at my life and I'm like, success. I experience success majority of the time. Very rarely do I get bitter. Do I feel bitterness? Is it still there? It can always be there. It can still always happen, but you learn to mitigate it by being a projector. If you live your life as a projector, it's just a natural result. There's not there's not a way that it's not going to happen, but you have to put in the learning, you have to put in the study, you have to put in the work, and you have to understand that it's going to take time. So it's a longer process for us than it is for anybody else. It's always going to take more time, but the payoff is great. I only work 20 hours a week max, maybe not even that much.
That's the dream.
I
That's
mean,
the anti-capitalism dream.
yeah, maybe not even that much. And what I do in those 20 hours is It has a large effect on the people that I work with. It has a large effect on them. It has a large effect on their families, their businesses. Well, but I had to put in a lot of study. I had to put in a lot of effort. I had to, I had to do a lot to get to that point. I know projectors that want to work in an office. I know projectors and that they get their success there. Human design is it's about individuality. So, maybe not. It might not be for every projector to work 20 hours a week because they would not be doing what they wanted to do. Maybe for what they want to do, they need to work 30. There's so you have to understand that it's going to be different for everybody.
Right now, I see that there's such potential for projectors to live this successful life where they feel so fulfilled because they are masters of stuff. They're recognized and all that. But just because the potential is there doesn't mean that they're automatically going to get there. You also need to put in the effort, the work.
Right.
And yes, work is not a dirty word. Projectors, you can work. It's just that you can't do physical work. But when it comes to mental studying, you are equipped better than a generator type to do
Mhm.
work that's mental for studying, for intellectual stuff.
Right.
Ooh,
Exactly. Yeah.
that is a
Exactly.
huge paradigm shift, huge paradigm shift. What would you advise, let's say, a young projector, somebody who maybe just graduated from school, just starting out in their professional life, and they want to experience success? What would you advise them to do in the next 5 years?
I would advise them to learn human design and to learn human design from source material
Wait, why do they need to learn human design, even if they don't want to teach human design?
because the more human design a projector knows, the better off they are in navigating the world because you're going to live life as a projector, right? So you need to know what it is to be a projector. If you don't know what it is to be a projector, well, you're not going to have a very good time living life as a projector, which means you're not going to get the success. Probably not going to get the success. I mean, you might, but not to the degree that you could if you knew human design. A projector doesn't learn human design to work in human design. A projector learns human design because it helps us navigate the world. You take me, and there's a projector that knows absolutely nothing about human design, and you put us in a room and you watch us interact with people. It's gonna be very, very, very different. It's gonna be very different. One of us is gonna recognize, one of us isn't. One of us is gonna feel good in aura, one of us isn't. Because when you operate as a projector and when you have that knowledge, then okay, I can guide energy, and you can see the difference. I can look and I can see if somebody's a generator or if they're a projector. Easy. It's not hard. It's not hard because you start to see that everybody works mechanically. Generators have sacral responses. Projectors don't have sacral responses. These things are very, even on the surface, is very simple pieces of knowledge to know that's going to help you interact much smoother in the world and conserve your energy and manage energy. So the projector doesn't learn human design because they're going to work in it. Projector learns human design because it's going to help their overall process. Life is going to be easier. As a projector, if you know human design, life is going to be easier than if you don't. I mean, it is. It's going to be easier. And so that's a large piece of it. Look at just any type. You look at anybody that is wildly successful, or does really well, or is really well known, well recognized. They always do more than the requirements. They
For
always put
sure.
in more than the requirements. I mean, you look at anybody, for the most part. I can't think of anybody immediately that has only done the bare minimum and has reached a point where either they're seen as great or they feel great, right? It just doesn't work like that. I studied multiple systems before human design. And if I didn't study those systems, I wouldn't be where I'm at in human design. If I didn't know what I know about spirituality, if I didn't know what I know about occultism, if I didn't know what I know about esoteric knowledge, there's no way I would know what I do about human design. There's no way I would be as fluent in human design as I am. I wouldn't have the success that I have. There's no way. There's no way that I would. So it's not a matter of the last thing that you want the worst mentality for a projector to have is, well, do I have to do that? That's not the mentality. The mentality is it needs to be, how can I use that? How can I use that? How can I learn that? And how can I use that? That's the mentality that a projector needs to have. If you have that mentality of how can I use that, and you're going to go somewhere. Because I know very successful projectors that are Chinese medicine doctors, physical therapists, doctors. I mean, all sorts of fields, and they know human design very well. They're very fluent in human design. They know human design as well as human design analysts know human design, but that's not what they do. But as a practitioner, right, as a guide, as a physical therapist, as a trainer, as all of these different professions, because they know human design, they're better at it than their peers because they know human design. So
Human design is like the user manual. That's what they always say in human design,
yeah,
right?
it's the blueprint.
It's the blueprint. It's the user manual of human beings.
Yeah.
So always good to know how the car works, how the toaster works, if we can
Yep.
compare ourselves to that.
Yeah.
Good to know human design. And once the young person, the young projector learns more about human design and learns from source material, not
Source.
just from rando person on Instagram,
Yeah.
right?
Google's not your friend with human design. Google is not your friend. And influencers are not your friends, not in the context of human design as far as learning goes. Just in the sense that we're never going to learn what we need to learn from content alone. Human design is way too deep.
Tell us about your conference.
My conference is going to be on the 21st of August through the 24th of August. It's the Rocky Mountain Human Design Conference. It's going to be here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it is primarily an educational conference. So there has not been very many human design conferences traditionally. Not there used to be human design conferences when Ra was alive. He would have his events, but there hasn't really been very many events since then. In recent years, a colleague of mine has had a few conferences, but those conferences, they weren't purely educational, and I want to make sure that there's something that is purely educational, because the projector needs to learn. The projector doesn't need to show up and go to be around a bunch of people in aura and take in a bunch of aura and not learn something. They're not going to benefit from that, right? Just like we've been talking about, the projector needs to learn, needs to master something. And so it was important to me to create an environment and an experience, whether it is in aura, in person, whether somebody comes to, it's at the University of Utah, whether somebody comes in aura in person or they catch the live stream, there's an environment where they can learn, where they can really take in and learn from people that are experts in their field. They know what they're talking about. Some of it's going to be more advanced, some of it's not. But at the end of the day, even if something is advanced for a projector, you might not get it then, but you'll get it later. Majority of the speakers are projectors. 7 out of 9 are projectors, which is unheard of. It's
Unusual, yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that's very new. It's the first time that a conference has been a majority projectors.
And if a young projector wants to learn more about your work, where can they find you?
My website, it's just my first name, Breyton.design. That's it, just Breyton.design, and that's my website. You can access me there. I do have some lectures that can be purchased there. I do have classes that can be taken. Everything that I do is live for the most part. I have mentorships. But for the younger projector, classes are really going to be, the entry point of working with me. Sometimes I hold classes monthly, and then quarterly I'll hold immersions. But those are probably the best entry points. Are going to be anything that's a class or a few classes, any sort of a group program's usually going to be the best entry point for a projector, especially because you benefit from being around other people as a projector. Projectors learn well around other people. If they subscribe to my newsletter, I do give exclusives through my newsletter, and one-to-one guidance and education, things like that. So newsletter is really huge. I'm not for strangers, so I don't give everything to everybody. You have to be in with me. So I recommend subscribing to my newsletter.
Guys, I'm going to put all the links down below in the description box. Brayton, thank you so much for busting these projector myths. I think that we busted more than 3. So that was great. But thank you so much for joining me in this conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it.